We're aware that semen retention has the power to show you your potential, right? It can help you create the life that you want to live. Something that has that kind of power has an equal shade, a darker side that we're not talking about. Isolation, lack of intimacy, getting estranged to women and dating, an unstable level of confidence that goes up and down like the freaking weather, as a result of something that should be incredibly positive. And that's caused by 4 very toxic ideas that can sneak up on you when you're practicing semen retention. 4 beliefs that I've observed in my 5 years coaching men that most of the time are practicing semen retention, as I have experienced it myself. Let's talk about these 4 toxic ideas so that you can avoid them and get all the benefits, all the growth out of semen retention in a way that doesn't create new problems as a result of our own obsessive nature. Before we get into these 4 IDs, and the last one is definitely the most common one, I want to make clear that no matter how you choose to retain, I respect you because you're part of a very small group of men that's taking responsibility, mastering their sexual desires, and all the good that comes from that. Truly, I admire that. We're on the same team, so if something that I say pisses you off, and I'll try not to, I'd like to invite you to first think why that frustration is there. If you still disagree, go ahead, shoot a comment, keep it respectful, otherwise we don't have a conversation. I'm making this video from that place of admiration, with the intention to help you avoid these horrible pains that I've seen with my clients time and time again. Alright? Number 1, and oh boy, this is a painful one. Retention as an excuse to take distance from women and dating. Retention as an excuse to get comfortable being isolated. And what this means is that semen retention can become a Trojan horse for a very toxic idea called men going their own way, which is a very nihilistic idea that has men retracting themselves from women entirely and even social life. There's 2 elements that are at play here, and the first one being modern dating. Especially if you live in the USA, there's challenges, right? But when you open your freaking phone, the algorithm shows you what's gonna piss you off. We have to understand that when you open your phone, what you get to see isn't reality. It just isn't. When you have this picture of modern dating and on the other side you taking distance from that as a result of semen retention, you get this very subtle disdain towards dating, towards women. And now here's the big fucking problem with that. Not only are we social creatures, not only are we by nature wired to dance with the feminine and to express that sexual desire, but you being on semen retention, you are taking your responsibility to overcome the fact that most men are enslaved to their sexual urges. Which means that you are able to create pure and deep connections with women, and that you will attract women that are also doing their part. So while on semen retention, you're actually preparing yourself to express yourself socially and to create real connections with women, then there is a lot of men that take distance from it, and that is such a shame. Semen retention is helping you get to your essence so that you can express it much more effortlessly. And so it would be such a shame for you to take distance from your own nature. Just like Napoleon Hill wrote in his book, the desire for sexual expression is inborn and natural. The desire cannot and should not be submerged or eliminated. Whatever you get to see on your phone, do not buy into the story that isolation is the way to go. Now, there are some exceptions, obviously, when you just get out of a relationship. You're trying to get rid of your fuckboy era, or you have a religious reason to abstain. These are loving reasons to take some time off, to take some distance from that whole place. But in most cases, semen retention cannot be an excuse for you to stop interacting, stop communicating with women. As the dance with the feminine is something that sets our soul on fire, and you would be dimming that flame if you take distance and isolate yourself. And after the 4th point, I will even share a story with you of someone who was abstaining for religious reasons and still got into issues. So keep watching. My advice to you is to use that raging desire that you are now accumulating on semen retention, the mastery of your sexual urges, to take that and to start expressing even more, to start interacting with women, with men even more. That is where the real growth is as a result of semen retention. Not by distancing yourself, right? I'm not saying go fuck around with women. I'm saying keep dancing. Isolation is a bitch, and on semen retention you are harnessing the tools to do exactly the opposite. So please go in that direction. Don't take distance. The second one is much simpler. If you've been on a streak longer than 2 weeks, then you know that semen retention can have the tendency to make you feel prideful, make you feel arrogant, superior even. And I'd like to simply remind you of something Marcus Aurelius told himself every single day, which is, you are just a man. And you are. And I don't say that in a deprecating way. I mean, regardless of how impressive it is what you are doing here, you are still just a man in your reference to other men and other women. Regardless of the decisions anyone else is making in their lives, that doesn't say shit about you. What I want you to focus on is very simply the contrast between who you were and who you are becoming. That growth is the only thing that's relevant. What that means about the relationship between us and the world around us, we shouldn't give two donkeys about. The reason I'm mentioning this is because this can become a part of your character, and oh boy, I've seen it. When that arrogance creeps up on you and this pride becomes a part of what you're doing, you will isolate yourself, not by your own choice, but because the world around you doesn't want to connect with you. And that's something maybe even more painful. So my advice to you is to focus on your own growth and cancel out all the rest, because it's simply not interesting nor relevant. When semen retention becomes the goal itself, it's like talking about masculinity rather than to display your masculinity. It's a paradox. Frodo or Harry Potter weren't talking about semen retention and ice baths. They were on a mission. They had purpose, and all the character growth that they experienced was a result of them moving towards their destination. Nobody will ever credit you for a self-improvement routine. Anyone will credit you for what those self-improvement routines have helped you achieve in your life, what it has helped you build. And fuck credits anyways. When semen retention becomes the goal itself, right, the streak, the benefits, all that meaningless stuff, it will distract you from your purpose, it will distract you, it will rob you of your direction, and that can cause real problems. Semen retention is the extra engine you have in your vehicle. It is still the destination that creates all the significance in your life. So instead of talking about the engine, semen retention, let's talk about where you are going. I care about what semen retention is helping you achieve in your life. I don't give a single shit about your streak. My advice to you is to channel semen retention towards your mission, to let semen retention disappear in the background. The streak, the eye contact, the idea that you're somehow more attractive, forget about it and use it to build what you're building. Let it disappear in the background. And then lastly, and by far the most common delusion that semen retention creates, which is the obsession on the streak. And this is really important. When anyone's motivation is based in ego, that's when people will get very vocal about it, right? The things that you've done in your life that came from a genuine place of power and growth, did you feel the need to convince other people to do the same? No, man. When people get vocal about you should go a year or 2 years, that is the most clear tell that this is based in ego and that it doesn't provide any value to you. And funny enough, that focus on the streak, that obsessive focus on long streaks often goes hand in hand with the fear to lose your confidence. Where people are coming to me asking, do I lose my mojo? Do I lose my confidence if I break this streak? And that is the biggest delusion out there, man. That self-image that seems to be expanding, it all comes from character growth that semen retention is helping you with. The streak itself doesn't do anything. It provides you with the energy to grow. And here comes the most important point. The regeneration cycle is 64 days. After that 64 days, for that reason, the motivation becomes purely spiritual, right? Because you've fully restored. There's no physiological process adding anything else anymore. 64 days have passed. Okay, so that's cool. You go for spiritual growth. Now, when you are on semen retention, and please, I hope you listen carefully. When you are on semen retention and you learn how to master that knee-jerky reaction to get rid of your sexual energy and making sex this process, you know? When you master this, then sex and connection with women becomes spiritual as well. The growth that comes from a spiritual connection with a woman and building a relationship reaches far beyond what an insanely long streak on semen retention can give you. And above that, the spiritual growth that a 2-month streak will give you is absolutely astounding. As men, and you know this, we have this obsessive muscle within us, right? When we go out for beers with the boys, for some reason we need to see how far we can get. If we smoke weed, we're smoking weed as if it's a freaking competition. If we play video games, we don't play 1 hour, we play 12 fucking hours in a row, deep into one direction, and we realize, oh fuck, I've lost balance, and then we try to figure our lives out again, right? And when this obsession reaches into semen retention, this is where it creates all these problems that we've been talking about. I had a client who was on a 9-month streak for religious reasons. So at first I was like, okay man, that's amazing, that's cool. But as we continued to work on his online business, he started talking more and more about intimacy and women, even though we were building his business, right? And so he was telling me that when he was in the gym and the girl would be in his vicinity or smile at him, that he would get this immediate negative reaction towards her. And together with that, a very strong judgment about the fact that he was attracted to her, about the fact that he actually wants to engage with these women. And he was being super critical about all of it. This got him to the point where we couldn't do shit about his business because he lost himself in this isolation. He lost himself in getting so estranged with women while his nature was telling him to express himself, especially being on a streak that long. So what we did was re-establish his connection with the world around him, and especially with the femininity around him. And when we started doing this man, I tell you, he became alive again. Balance was all he needed. Masculinity equals balance. It equals integration of the dark side of the light side. And semen retention has the tendency to make you quite obsessive. And in almost every case, I've seen it create massive problems that we need to then solve again. Chill the fuck out. Take a step back. Don't listen to these guys that are persuading you to go on 2-year streaks, saying that this is the only way to experience all the benefits. It's a true delusion, and what gives that away is the simple fact that when something is based in your power and real growth, then you don't feel the motivation to start convincing the world. It is no different for the vegan that finds great pride in the fact that this person is eating leaves and now wants to convince the world to do the same. Retain in the way that suits you. Get into a relationship and play around with different durations of semen retention. Find what works for you. Cut out the noise, and remember, at the end of the day, all of this is to build something. So let's stop talking about how long you're retaining. Streaks beyond 2 months without the right reason will cause massive problems for you. When you are looking for the right way forward, that right way forward is often based in your nature. And obsession will carry you away from your nature. That's the problems, that's the pains that I've seen time and time again. And I hope that you can avoid them so that you can get everything out of semen retention and live a deep and rich life of experience. Take care of yourself. See you in the next one. Bye.